Beyond the Line is back with episode number 3. Here is our hitchhiker's slide to the best mountain bike content.
Elliot, I need your skater shoes. This is legit.
With track difficulties steadily increasing, we've picked riders' brains and we'll look at the future of cross-country.
We all want a fair race, we all want a hard race.
At Miriam Nicole's home race, she and Danny Seagrave sat down with us to talk about the highs and lows of World Cup downhill racing.
Home race means a lot of pressure.
We've also got all the action from exciting downhill and cross-country races in Léger, as well as what happened at the Cross-Country World Cup in Grand Montana. As always, Rob Warner is hosting with Red Bull TV's downhill analyst Eliot Jackson and two-time cross-country World Championship bronze medalist Emily Batty providing their expertise.
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Line, where we have just had a weekend of phenomenal French flavour. The Léger World Cup absolutely delivering. We'll be coming to that shortly. Let's start though with Grand Montana, a brand new World Cup venue for the cross-country riders in Switzerland. Although it wasn't the venue that stole the headlines, it was the track. What was going on up there, Emily?
Yeah, it was so cool to be on site because, like you said, it's a brand new track. These riders are having to deal with new technical sections, and then the weather on top of it. You could really see the fear amongst the riders.
Yeah, I mean, I always think that, you know, when you go to a new venue, there's uncertainty. You don't have your settings from last year. The team is kind of struggling. So, yeah, it's a crapshoot almost, you know?
It did feel, from all the noise coming out of there, that this was a track that perhaps took the sport to a new level. Let's find out what the officials and some of the riders who pointed a bike at it thought.
At the moment, we're not trying to push the courses further than where they are. We're happy with where they are. Obviously, we want them to be really challenging for the top athletes, and at the same time, we don't want the riders that are further down the field to feel pressure to do these big A lines.
We're in such a unique place in the sport at the moment of the transition of equipment, the level of the riders, they're always pushing us to find the limits. Years ago, we used to race on Sunday, but we could train unofficially Tuesday, Wednesday, and so the courses are getting harder, the training windows are getting less, and we have to race short track Friday, Saturday. So there's this whole new level of challenge.
I, in the end, liked the course very much. Yeah, with the rain, it was for sure super hard to ride, but I would say I'm more a technical rider, which suits me well, and yeah, I enjoyed riding there.
Well, interesting that it's quite mixed, I suppose, what we just heard there. You know, on the sidelines, I heard the word dangerous bandied about. Is it too much? Was it too difficult, this course, this brand new track?
I mean, that is the chatter. What is difficult and what is dangerous?
Yeah.
And this, I think, being the new track and the weather conditions, they did try to spice up some of the features with all of those rocks.
Well, that was the thing that I like. What is the difference between difficult and dangerous? And it's one thing to put kind of rocks aesthetically lining the track that serve no riding purpose.
Yes. Right. Early in the week, people were like quite worried and talking quite negatively about the track. But being on the sidelines, and you could see the distinct lines, there was just a sense of overwhelm amongst the riders. But I would say it was 80% were embracing it and liked the challenge.
Oh,
and
really?
Yeah.
20% were outspoken about how it could potentially be on the dangerous side of things.
Is this going to become the norm? We all want to see progression in mountain biking. We are going to see progression. Is this too much too soon? What was your general feeling after the race?
In my opinion, from having raced and now looking from the outside, I think we saw a progression of technical to a limit, 4 or 5 years ago, and then they kind of backed off.
Yeah,
they removed
right.
Pieterse and Mount St. Anne. But now we're starting to see it pick up a little bit with these new tracks.
I always used to talk about how a bunch of the XC tracks, there would be like World Cup downhill sections, and I remember in Norway and Hafjell, there was this super rooty section. So I thought it was really nice to see the technical skill of the XC racers come out.
When we look at what's cool about mountain biking or cross-country racing, you know, there's the start, then there's the uphill tactical, then there's the downhill technical features, and then the flat tactical. So I think we're just going to continue to see more of that.
But there is a limit. Let's have a look what the rule book actually says, right? Because I believe that a course has to be designed to be rideable. Is that correct?
And that's just it. I think the track was a little premature. I think there were maybe a week behind as far as constructing the track to be done and complete for the riders' training. Like Beck did mention, we're limited with time on the track. And when they were on the track, they were also making modifications to some of the features because of the complaints that were going around. So it was more of they weren't quite prepared.
Yeah.
And and then with the mud, of course, it wasn't a completely ride-proof track, a weatherproof track.
I gotcha. Yeah.
But the reason when I was talking to the course designers, it's much more, there's more depth to it. He'd said that the Swiss forestry regulations wouldn't permit organic material being imported into the track.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of running features, which we don't like to see when it comes to World Cup racing.
That's really interesting. Well, they've got to respect the environment. One woman who dealt with it incredibly, though, Lana Lecomte, taking her 10th World Cup win. She's now the most successful French woman in World Cup cross-country racing. I mean, amazing performance. A slow start to this season for her. She's going to be happy with that heading towards Paris.
Certainly. I think Lana is one of those exceptional riders when it comes to mud. We saw her round out last year with a World Cup win in Mount St. Anne, Canada. But watching her on the track, most of the women were just on the sidelines building up their courage to do a feature, and you saw Lana effortlessly
she was loving it. I
never saw her standing at a feature trying to learn something. Like, she knew the skill, and she was just coming in and effortlessly riding through it.
I always think about, even with downhill, there is, you kind of have mental blocks on some parts of the track. And I would imagine it would be the same with cross country. If there's a section that you don't quite have mentally, then you're spinning the whole entire lap thinking about that one section. And you could see Luana just in her element, in the zone, like flowing through the whole lap, being like present. So
she was certainly loose, and she'd embraced the fact that every other rider seemed nervous. She definitely used that to her advantage, and you could see that all week in her preparation on track.
Yeah, absolutely. So a very dominating performance for Luana, as it was for the men's winner Tom Pidcock, who, you know, won again. A perfect weekend for him. When he gets on a mountain bike, he's pretty much unstoppable, right? Our mate Tom.
All I need him to do is text me and just let me know when you're going to start the race.
I'll certainly help you with your predictions a bit, if he knew when he was actually racing. But fair to say that when he gets on a mountain bike, you know, he does win, doesn't he? I mean, he's actually unstoppable, right? And this was such a technical track. I'm going to say that he's not a road rider. He is a mountain biker. He's got to be able to deal with this.
Yeah, there's so many elements. He's just exceptional at that terrain, the mass field. He doesn't seem to be bothered by it at all.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, but there was maybe one mistake.
Oh, dear.
Didn't really matter.
Tom.
I mean, he still won by over a minute, but...
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty flawless otherwise. Even he was a little rattled at throwing a foot down there. But, I mean, his odds of winning are you know, almost 2 out of 3, it seems. He's just superior.
That is the crazy thing, right? So, because he's won 7 races and he's only started 11, right?
That's right, exactly. 7 out of 11 starts. He's won. Let's see how he compares, actually, to the greatest in the sport, to Nino and to Julian, the 2 big dogs who've dominated cross-country racing forever. And look at Tom Pidcock's win rate, 63.6%. He absolutely doubles the win rates of Absalon and Schurter.
And Emily, like, the crazy thing to me is those races that he hasn't won, he has, like, gotten a flat. Like, what was it? At Snowshoe got
double
2?
Front flat.
Yes. And he still got 5th?
Still places on 5th on the podium.
That's crazy.
I believe the DNF in Leger was because he'd been hit by a car 2 days or something before it. I mean, it takes something to stop him winning out of his control, really, right? I think that's fair enough to say.
Yeah, I think the other men, when they're on the start line, pretty much know who's going to walk away with that win every time he's on the start line.
And we know how good he is technically because he won in Crans-Montana on that phenom of a track. But that isn't everything. There's something very special about his physiology, right?
Yeah. I mean, let's have a look at some stats here.
This is going to confuse me, Em. I know this is going to confuse me. The power to weight ratio.
I mean, for the viewers that...
Let's see. Let's get you on.
Oh, here we go. Elliot's the He's the Aki master. Okay, so I don't want to overwhelm you, but the viewers that are into numbers, probably my XC crowd, can appreciate some power to weight facts. I wanted to do a little comparison here from women to men, but what we're looking at is power to weight ratio. So, we're all variants in different weights. So the way we get a number that's relevant to each other is to take the average power for that time. We have 20 minutes, which is most relevant for XC. Divided by our weight in kilo. Okay. So when I was at my best, 2018, 2 second places, bronze at World Championships, I could produce at 20 minutes, I could produce a 5.5. So say in this area here. My 5-minute power was in the 6.2s. But I'm a light rider. So I was one of the lightest in the women. Pidcock is very much one of the lightest in the men, almost 7 to 10 kilos lighter than any of the other men. I was 48 kilo, but my max sprint was very, very low. I was in the 16s and 8.4 over here.
Look at those numbers because 20 minutes was kind of like an XC, and then like the 5 seconds is maybe like a start.
Exactly. So this is our most relevant to XC racing. This is our 5-minute power is like our start loop. So very, very important. This is like an attack kind of mid-race, and then the 5 seconds would be the beginning of an attack or those little micro surges throughout the race. So I'm a light rider. Tom Pidcock, like I said, is 7 to 10 kilos lighter, but his economics is off the charts in the men's category. He's actually redefined his 20-minute power. So he's pushing, I think his record that I found on the internet was 386 for 22 minutes.
Wow.
At 58 kilos, which puts him at a 6.8. So he's actually rewriting this script.
So
and then he's over here at 7.8, again rewriting. And we know that he's exceptional at sprinting.
No one else has ever reached those numbers before him. Is that what you're saying? Pidcock has literally lifted the bar.
Not in XC at least. But what his advantage is his economic advantage of being so light but still producing
he's
the top of the rider's power.
Top of the chart across the board.
Exactly. Yeah. On top of his exceptional technical skills, as we know.
One question I do ask is how long will we see him split his time between sort of the road, cyclocross and mountain biking? Van der Poel we haven't really seen on a mountain bike for 3 years now. Tom Pidcock, though, does seem to manage to do both at the moment.
Yeah, he's balancing it quite well. I feel like maybe down the road he might have to... It seems like we all get to this pivotal moment where we do have to start to...
I mean, we see Pauline doing that now.
Well,
yeah.
I'm going to stop you there because me and Elliot were lucky enough to get our good mate Tom on our Just Ride podcast, and he shed a little bit of light on what the future might hold. You'd never see yourself coming over full-time to mountain biking then. And am I right in thinking that you've said it's your favourite, or the most fun for you out of all the disciplines you do?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I mean, not anytime soon. Maybe like the back end of my career when I would come and...
when you've won the Tour?
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I mean... I think I'm not going to rule that out. I'd certainly enjoy doing that.
Have you spent any time on a downhill bike? Is there any Pinarello going to make a downhill bike?
No.
But I mean, have you ever ridden one really in anger?
I went downhilling with Greg. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but I practiced the black run in Andorra, and I dropped him. He hadn't practiced it.
Oh, we got the exclusive. We got the exclusive. Well, that is a big, big call from the Olympic champion there. We might have to get Greg Minnaar on the phone. Dropped him on a downhill.
He told me never to repeat it, but...
It's a bold statement.
Tom could be telling the truth.
I think, yeah, you're right. Yeah, we'll find out.
Have you seen him in the Tour? Have you seen him descend on a road bike?
Well, that's right. He is absolutely... The speedy is just phenomenal. Yeah, the risks involved. And, of course, he's taking part now in the Tour de France. The eagle-eyed out there may have noticed there's a brand-new team in there, the Red Bull Border Hansgrohe team, with Primo Roglic in there as well. 4th in GC at the moment. Do you think that Red Bull getting involved might make the difference to this team, to Roglic? He's won the Vuelta, he's won the Giro, he hasn't won the Tour yet.
I mean, to me, like seeing a bunch of Red Bull riders, it kind of like brings that mountain bike flavor over to it. You know, you saw the team announcement in the hangar. I think it's cool to have another group to follow. And I also think that it's been cool, even in, you know, for us, like interviewing Annemiek van Vleuten, we see Pauline doing a lot of road
we're
stuff
talking about Tom, the roadie, coming to the mountain biking. There's a lot of chat, isn't there, Emily, about Pauline Ferrand Prévot, the mountain biker, perhaps. Well, she said it's her last year of mountain biking, right?
She has stated that. It's just rumor still, but the rumor is that she's going to be going full-time to road with this Melissa bike.
Whoa, wow, big rumor. Yeah. Don't doubt it. I don't doubt it one bit. Now, one thing I do know about the Tour de France, and I have been following it forever, is that it has a tour etiquette. If someone in the peloton needs a wee, it's not unusual for the entire peloton to stop and wait for them. Does it exist in mountain biking? Let's find out.
There are many unwritten rules, and I think a lot of it is also about just maintaining sportsmanship within the group. And there's kind of a common understanding that we all want a fair race, we all want a hard race, but those positions actually matter quite a lot.
I saw a really big change in the moment when I was leading the World Cup, is the respect among the riders. But outside the top 10, it starts getting messy because there's no respect. It doesn't matter who you are. People just poof, crash, like, because it's desperate.
On the first lap, it's every man for themselves to get that position. If you want that spot, it's whoever backs down less.
There are some people, they do stupid stuff in a way.
You know, my coach always says, like, if someone's hips are in front of you, like, they have the line. And I think that's a really helpful visual as a rider. But obviously, if bars are like this, you know, our number one priority is not to crash, because crashing is very slow.
I definitely have had my fair share of learning and how to bump. And when I do have to bump, like, I'm not afraid of it.
Ideally, you don't want to give up your space, but you also don't want it to crash. So I find it's quite difficult sometimes what to do in those situations.
Sometimes if you have a little bit more power and you can just get 5 centimeters ahead, you just are the one that has the handlebar in front, and then you are in the position.
You assert yourself, you kind of control your space, and instead of hitting bars, you really want to lean in and, you know, give them one of these.
When I see a rider coming, I just like to protect sometimes my side. Hey, 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 and then you go, and when you want to pass, you just pass it, and then you put your position in.
When you're descending, you can't really hold people up. You know, no one's gonna just pull the brakes, but when you're climbing on the top of these steep kicks, like, it's a little bit of a cheeky move, but if you ease up right at the top, the people behind you are probably gonna have to put a foot down. So that is a tactic that I think is part of the sport for sure.
I've been in races where that's happened, and I think it's a card that people definitely do play. But whether that's right or not, I'm not sure. I'm too nice to do that. It's just like, then you'd feel really bad and calm as a bitch, and you don't want that to come back around at you.
Obviously, when it's the last lap, there will be a little bit more of a scramble for the right wheel.
If we were racing for the podium right now, it's like, I'm not helping you, you're not helping me.
In the end, it's all about being respectful for your opponents. I would say, like, this is the most important thing.
Well, it sounds to me like it all goes on out there, that there are no rules. Evie Richards saying, I'm too nice to get involved. Is that the case for you, Evelyn?
I mean, I definitely had, this is probably my most fun segment we've ever worked on, because talking with the athletes, I wasn't going to let them give me some black formal tie answer. I know what goes on in these races.
That's what I was going to say. Did they actually give everything? Like, you would know the stuff that they held back. Like,
I wish this was a 10-minute segment, because you'd get all the dirt, that was a nice little jump clip. But for certain, these kind of things go on because you've got all these athletes within half a percentage of fitness. So it comes down to who is a little bit more assertive or a little bit more confident. And those moments of contact, yeah, they absolutely go on.
And I feel like in other forms of racing, the thing that you worry about most is like retaliation. So if like,
Yes.
right, like you throw an elbow, then you're probably going to get an elbow thrown back at you at some point in the future.
Yeah, actually once Beck Henderson actually mentions how, you know, you kind of have to build allies. And there's a bit of role playing there too. You are friends, you're legit friends. And karma, like Evie said, is definitely a thing you have to factor in as well.
Not everyone's friends, right? Because, you know, there are incidents on track. Let me draw your attention to this. A rider must act in a sporting manner at all times and must permit any faster rider to overtake without obstructing, I think might be the important
bit. Didn't follow that rule.
Well, come on.
But would you always move over and let someone come by?
Hell no.
There's the straight answer.
Yeah. I mean, it comes down to assertiveness, and that is such a great argument.
Yeah. I've got a feeling that we may have something where Emily was asserting herself.
Oh,
well,
yeah?
I combed through the archives because I was trying to figure this out.
There we go.
This is the most egregious example of it. You see
I love
Emily Batty on the right-hand side there, and taking an arm off. It wasn't just an elbow. It was a
handoff, bro. It's a handoff.
No, but that's the that is a poor angle. Give me a moment to explain.
All right, here we go. I don't know if that rule.
No, but let's dive into that for an example. This was a decisive moment. Yolanda was up the road, and I was descending way faster than Annika, and she knew that.
Yeah.
And she'd claws back up on the climb, and so she kept trying to put that effort
There it
in
is
to
again,
get
just
in
if you've
front of
missed
me.
it.
Yeah. And so Annika took this high line, and she knew she was going to come into my bar, and it was the same thing every darn lap, and I was like, no, enough is enough, and I was being protected.
She wanted to get in front of you so you wouldn't ride away from her on a downhill, right?
And a gap, like a 20-second gap over a minute would happen, and it just drove me
So it's a
crazy.
tactic.
And so was I being aggressive and like grabbing her? No, in my opinion, I was saying like, don't come into my triangle like you've done the last few times. But it's a gray area. I didn't, you know.
Are you friends with Annika now, or just out of did that affect your relationship?
Respect is still the ultimate priority. So yeah, at the end of the race.
Well, I think there is you don't want to do anything dangerous.
Certainly.
Where you guys are both going to crash or something. In your defense, that was it's a much slower section, right? And like there's all of these kind of microaggressions leading up to it. Yes. You know, like you might throw a wheel and you might annoy someone.
Yeah, it goes on, doesn't it? Let's have a look at a very, I would say, high-profile situation from 2020, featuring an up-and-coming young Evie Richards up against the Queen. Pauline Pierron, a 12-time elite world champion in cycling.
Okay, so this is coming in for the finish here in Czech Republic. And we have Evie Richards, who is a mega powerhouse. We know she's got the watts to win the sprint. And Pauline here, a critical moment, she's deciding which line of the track she's going to take here to try to counter Evie's sprint. So she can either come to the right of Evie or she can come to the left. She's got no one in the space. So she's making this move up on her own as we go. So we see Pauline has now decided to go on the outside. These girls are going to their max wattage. They're winding up, their heads down.
Can't see where they're going.
All of their force is going into those pedals, okay?
Whoa.
She's made that choice to go on the left. However, just note that back wall on the left side there. Okay, we're coming in. They're probably around 1,000 watts, 850 to 1,000 watts here. But you can see Pauline is quite upset because her perception was that Evie came over to her.
And that's a scary moment for her. Like you're going full out, right? Like she feels like Evie's coming over.
Yeah, she felt like she was pinched out. But to my argument, okay, so
I'm going to say
line is
to me like Evie did move over on her, right?
Well,
but to Emily's point, she could have taken another line. She could have gone to the right.
I would say Pauline should have come inside, knowing that all of the riders, as you can see, the line of all the riders, the fastest line is the most direct. So they're kind of going from inside to inside, and that natural straight line shoots you to the outside, and Pauline should have known that.
Right.
So did Evie cut her off and pushed her to the barriers? No, I just think Evie was just going flat out in a straight line. So I don't think that was that one of those moves that we could say.
It's such a point of contention. Both riders have their eyes on it, don't they? I mean, it's a racing incident a lot of the time, right?
Yeah, and I mean, Evie was devastated about that. I mean,
yeah, she was. She was in tears afterwards. Yeah, she said she had to phone her mum.
She didn't even know. I mean, you could see it where, like, Pauline is looking over at Evie, and Evie is looking straight ahead. She just won the race.
Well, I think she was in the right, to be honest.
All right, okay. Well, let's leave that there because while that was one of the smallest winning margins we've ever seen, yesterday in Ligier, France, we saw one of the biggest. Pieterse winning the cross-country Olympic race there by 2 minutes 37. I mean, it's going to have Pauline Ferrand-Prévot quaking in her boots 3 weeks out from Paris. Mad performance, right?
Watching Pook, it was incredible to see her keep her motivation that whole race, like nearly 90 minutes. Cool. I thought she went a little early. I think she even admitted she went a little early, but she didn't let off the gas. I think maybe at some point she was like, you know what, let's just instill the fear in the riders at home and see how big of a margin we can make on second.
That was what we were talking about when we were watching it together. It almost felt like it was mental training for the Olympics. Like, this is the last big event that I'm going to do, before Paris, and can I sustain that effort mentally the whole time?
And Emily, could it be a physical effort in that, like, it was literally like a training ride for her? And I say that because the week before at the OKK Bike Revolution, this Swiss series that we cover, I saw Alessandra Keller literally just using this long climb as an interval every lap. She admitted afterwards that was a training ride for me. I mean, what's going on?
Yeah, when you don't have that competition, it's you against your power meter, which they have access to in their cockpit.
Yeah, they can see what they're doing.
Or they're racing the clock if they don't have power in the race. So certainly she was using this as a training ride, and I think a little bit of a statement to send a message home that she's a force to reckon with.
I mean, one of the things that impressed me the most was the technical ability of Pook there. Like, I think there were so many routes. We saw so many people crash. Evie crashed, That cyclocross background that she has, it just played into, she was making up time up the hills, but also on the downhills, not losing too much energy and stuff like that.
No, I mean, incredible performance. It was like she was racing herself. As I said, 2 minutes 37, that winning margin. Let's have a look how that compares to other winning margins for over the last 10 years. Oh, look who's beaten her. Twice. Who would think it could be Pauline Ferrand-Prévot that pulls out even bigger?
10 years ago, though.
Yeah, that's true enough. Look at that. Very good point, Elliot. Paris is going to be quite good, isn't it? What do you think?
It really is. Yeah, but then there's Lana Lecomte, who's shown, Pauline and Lana went first and second. But yeah, these girls they're going to definitely put on a show.
Alessandra Keller as well. We know she's
Alessandra Keller, absolutely. Yeah, she's one of those. She can just suffer.
Yeah.
She can just sit in the back of a train, and you're not quite sure if she's ready to crack or if she's just going to pull through.
What I saw of her in Switzerland, she looks like she's ready as well, and she is leading the overall World Cup. Let's have a look at these standings then, and there it is. After the massive weekend in Ligier, a difficult weekend, Pieterse, well, not that far off in the points. A good margin of Keller. We are getting towards the end of the season now. Hayley Batten not there, actually, still in third overall. Hayley, after those amazing performances early in the season, she's away now, I guess, getting ready for Paris, right? Preparing, a lot of the riders are.
Altitude training. Once one goes to altitude, then they're at a disadvantage if they're not also going. So we pretty much see everyone, preparing at proper elevation.
Incredible. Well, Emily, it's time to find out who impressed you the most in Ligier.
It was the performance of two athletes that caught my attention in Ligier. The stellar performance of Alan Hatherley and Candice Lill has undoubtedly put South Africa back on the map and etched their names into prominence. Hatherley, with his remarkable ability to dominate the men's race and take his first ever World Cup win with a lead of over 91 seconds. And Lill's sterling performance, securing a second place, the best of her career so far. This could very well be the beginning of a new era in South Africa racing.
And now on the line we have one of those super fast South Africans, Alan Hatherley, joined by Simon Andreasen. You've both enjoyed World Cup cross-country Olympic wins this year. Alan, your first ever, though, coming yesterday on the back of a perfect weekend. almost to the day, 12 years after Barry Stander was the last South African to ride. I mean, you've had a night to think about it now. How are you feeling this morning?
Yeah, I mean, it still feels unreal. It's kind of something I've been working for a long time, and just for some reason didn't come together. So yeah, I mean, to have a magical weekend like that, taking the double with the XCC on Friday and the XCO on Sunday is just unreal. And I think the timing couldn't be any better with the games just around the corner. So yeah, still soaking it in for sure.
I think it's so cool that when you guys, one of you are on, it seems like you're both on. And we saw something like this, reverse Simon, you taking the win in Arusha in Brazil earlier in the season. Do you guys have a pact when you leave the hotel room? Like, what are you guys saying? How do you know you're going to both perform so well at the same day?
It helps when like one person in the team is performing. It helps to lift all of us. And I kind of think we feed off each other in that sense. So it's like motivating that, to see your teammates go really well.
And Alan, when I was watching Leger, like kind of thinking about form, there were so many crashes and mistakes on the downhill, but you were riding so good, it almost felt like you were using them to recover. Was there a strategy there?
Yeah, for sure. I would say I've raced quite well on that course in the past, like in the dry and the mud. And like this year's edition, the way the course was, like the downhills were even more straightforward, I would say, than the previous edition. So there wasn't really much to gain by like going full send and risking it all. So I just, paced the climbs well and just took my time on the downhills, as you said, got a bit of recovery in and then pushed the climbs again. I think that was where I was getting for sure most of the time.
Well, it looks like you guys are on holiday with that background. But the next 3 weeks are quite important. Can you tell us, Simon, what the next 3 weeks looks like for you guys?
Yeah, I think first we are just recovering from the last week, taking it easy this week, enjoying the good weather and like the nice place we're staying in. So I think that's the plan, and then I think we're going to do some training as well next week and preparing for the games.
So neither of you are training at altitude this last little bit? You've come down at this point?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I think we're both on the same plan. We've been 6 weeks now at altitude, and that's done. And we just focus on some good times with the team, and like Simon said, get some energy and some final preparations in, and then off we go to the games.
You'll be hoping, I guess, for another day like yesterday, Alan. That was the second biggest winning margin in the last 10 years of cross-country Olympic. I mean, that was some performance you did. How can you try and redo that again in Paris?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's quite difficult to make any big changes. I think like a lot can go wrong now in each week. So I think to keep it simpler will be better. And I think with the team and with Dixie and that with the training plans, I think he's going to smash it. So it's up to him to hold me back, I guess, and just dial us in for the games now.
And, one of the things that I've been looking at this year, it seems like it's hard to gauge where you are because everyone is at a different point in their training. Some people are peaking early, some people are peaking late. For you, Simon, do you take in that external feedback, or is it really just kind of sticking to your plan?
Yeah, I think, don't really focus on other people, just trying to stick to my own plan and like the team's plan. I think we made a really good beginning of the year, and so far we've just been following that, and it's worked out really well. So that's the plan.
Well, listen, we're going to leave it there. We're going to let you clearly putting your feet up by that beautiful lake where you're on holiday in Paris. You've had an amazing season, both of you, so far, so you're well deserved to do that. And, of course, we absolutely wish you both all the best in just 3 weeks' time now in Paris. Good luck with that.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes, guys. Bye. Thanks.
Well, let's have a look then at what Alan's double win this weekend did to the overall standings. Here are the updated World Cup overall, and look at that, taking away the #1 plate from the absent Nino Schurter. It was the last race in Europe, 2 races to go. I mean, Hatherley is looking... He's in
Almost
pole
200
position,
points.
right?
Yeah.
He's in a great position here.
He really is. Yeah, look at that. Colombo's still there in third. Schwarzbauer having a great season, but a real battle now, I think, for this overall title. With that in mind, I think we should have a look at our predictions, because there's a new player. Alan Hatherley is the big dog. Let's have a look at what we said at the last round would happen in this round.
I'm going to interrupt you right there.
Oh,
so
interesting.
Tom didn't know he was going to go. Nino, I think he was in elevation.
You picked someone who didn't even go.
Well, I didn't. Neither one of my people.
You chose someone who didn't even start.
Pauline is nowhere to be found.
Emily, help me out here. What are we going to make him do this time?
The hardest thing about XC is figuring out who's on the starting line.
Oh, I hear
Me and Emily seem to be all right with it. I think it's get down and give me 10. Get down and give me 10. And while you're doing that, let's have a look at our prediction for Paris and for the upcoming World Championships, which come up at the end of August.
We've
a bit
all
of a
gone
summer break now. Look, yeah, funnily enough. World Championships, there's a difference, though. We've both gone for Pidcock, and again, oh, wow. Pieterse, Flückiger. Was that 10?
Well, I think I might stick with this. It was. Interesting how it went from 25 down to 10 this week.
I may or may not have a little bit of prior knowledge. I can see it in the future.
All I'm saying is stick around for the rest of the show.
Right, do that. And let's now turn our attention away from cross-country and on to this phenomenal downhill that we saw, this one-of-a-kind downhill we saw in Leger the weekend. The storm coming in, the start being moved earlier, and really unprecedented conditions. I don't think I've seen a track since Lord, maybe, 20.
Yeah,
you know,
I think that's a great comparison. So what happens on a downhill track like this is you had a ton of rain, and in France, in this region of France, it gets really soft. And so it stopped raining, the track dried out, it banked in the sun, the riders were riding, the ruts got really deep. And so once you have that super hard packed clay and it starts to rain, these are the worst conditions you can ride a downhill bike in.
That's right.
There's nothing you can really do.
No tyre can dig into that impermeable surface and give you any grip whatsoever, which is why we are just seeing this absolute chaos here. Look at it.
I've never been more engaged in a downhill race than I was this weekend.
Out of all the chaos emerged
there's this guy.
This guy. One of the greatest race runs we've ever seen. On back to back, the greatest race runs we've ever seen. Don't forget he won in Val di Sole a couple of weeks ago. He's had a year out with a broken neck. He's won here by 6.5 seconds. I mean, you can't even put it into words what this guy's doing, right?
So one of the things I really would like to point out is that in years past, there was a lot of conversation around Amaury Pierron riding over his head, riding, too crazy. But now he makes it look easy. He's like almost like a Troy Brosnan, but on another level,
He's had to back it down a bit, right? Is this like the second coming of Amaury Pierron? Is he a new rider? I mean, he was a little off in those first few World Cups, and actually I was quite surprised because his style is to come back in hard, but he did have a different approach. It does feel like he's built to this unbelievable pace he's at now.
Yeah, I mean, this is peak Amaury Pierron.
Yeah, he looked really comfortable in his run, didn't he?
Yeah.
He did, yeah. And don't forget that is one of the biggest winning margins that we've ever seen at any World Cup race. 6.5 seconds, absolutely massive, isn't it? And look at that there, even bigger than when he won here in 2000, yeah.
Well, there's one guy that we kind of talk a lot about when he was super dominant, which is Aaron Gwynn, and he had that over 7-second winning margin at Val di Sole.
Yeah.
And that was more than 10 years ago, 2012. Yeah. And so look at the winning margins here to do this in the modern era of downhill.
Yeah.
That is...
It's bonkers.
No. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. That shouldn't happen. And don't forget, actually, it's not the first time. We saw some more brilliance from Amaury Pierron here in 2019.
Oh, Pierron on the edge there. So the French not disappointing the crowd here this afternoon. It's going to be a massive winning margin. So Amaury Pierron coming down to the line. It's going to be his second World Cup win of 2019, and it's the one 2.3 up. That is colossal.
Absolutely unmatched Pierron's pace. And don't forget, actually, that since then, until his win yesterday only French men have won the Leger Downhill World Cup. And on another note, that was Pierron's 12th World Cup win, which sees him only 4 off Nicolas Vuillot now, the most successful French World Cup racer of all time. I reckon he's going to get it.
I mean, that's rarefied air.
I reckon he's going to get it. Let's have a look at what that win then by Pierron has done to the overall World Cup standings. Here they are, updated after Leger. And it is Bruni still at the French. Well, how does Bruni feel about this? His old rival had a year out, broke his neck, and has come back and is now in touch.
I have déjà vu. I mean, are we going to get another, Loic and Amaury last event of the season?
2 to go. 2 races to go.
Loic must be
stressing,
quaking in his boots.
I think he might be. And yesterday was a very different race to everyone. To most of the World Cup races, they're pretty clinical. This was a mess. Is there anything else, Elliot, apart from riding a bike insanely quick in those conditions, that can sort of lend itself, can help you take a win?
Ironically, I would say that this was a thinking rider's track. So to me, it was all about race strategy. And I think of kind of 2 key components there. One is communication with your team, whether that's another rider, the line coaches on the track, your mechanic, and the other bit of it is bike setup. Yeah. And so when I think about that communication, the track is changing. So
I've never seen a track change as much as that one did in Leger. We were watching it with real interest. Is it getting softer? Is the rain stopping? Is the wind? There's a lot going on.
I think the thing that maybe most people don't realize is that you are assessing the track all the way down. And so I wanted to tee up this clip of Greg because he really outlined what that looks like, the communication looks like between a rider and a team in his podium interview.
It definitely was a team effort today. Alan rated up and let me know how greasy it was down bottom, and that low line seemed to work. So I'm super happy to be on the podium again. It's been a while. And in this race, I lost a friend this week, Spider, and this race is for Spider. So as you'd always say, stay loose. And that's exactly what we did. But what a race. But I knew as soon as that ground started to get a little softer, the tires started gripping and the time started coming down. And, Andy and I sat there going, ooh. But then you look at Amaury, he didn't only put it into us in sector 1 and 2, he just kept that momentum going. So, man, what an animal.
So what Greg is talking about there is that, that terrifying section at the bottom. The line that he did and a bunch of other people did, they had never ridden. You would never ride that line. That was the first time they did it. And the riders who took the high and ended up crashing.
The racing line.
Right. Those are the riders where their team managers, their riding coaches, their line coaches, they didn't communicate up with them because you normally don't want to hear any of that. So it was a really decisive decision for the riders and the mechanics to say, you need to take this line, and that's what you heard Greg talking about there.
That was a shock to me straight away. I thought, if it's a decisive line and that's the winning move or clearly the losing move, why didn't they override the normal and just say, hey, heads up, 9 out of 10 riders are making an error here? Why wouldn't they say that?
It takes so much trust because if you are putting things in your rider's head and if you are thinking about that on the way down where you're like, I've never ridden this line, what do I do, where do I go, then that's time lost all the way down.
And one thing we know about Greg is that probably no one goes into their bike setup like he does. And on a day like this, how much of a difference would that make, Elliot?
I am so glad you asked.
Here we go.
So I wanted to talk about this bike setup. I want to set up a theme. I picked 3 riders. I'll talk about a theme of the track, and then I'll talk about what they were doing at their bike setup. So this is Greg. I love that he picks his front tire up 2 inches to skip a rut. Yeah. Just watch what happens to his back wheel there. Slides out. So what is happening, the theme of the track is really this inconsistency, and the way that I like to show the traction, one of the ways you can think about it, is how much roost is going on. So look at it there, and when I talk about kind of inconsistency, you have it super wet, you could see how little traction he is. This is that line that we were talking about here. This whole part is no man's land.
Yeah.
That's the racing.
No one has set tires on that in practice.
No. And so when I talk about assessing all the way down, how was Greg supposed to know that a branch just happened to go over the top of this and there's dust? We just saw him sliding around, so you're constantly assessing.
First elite male down, remember?
Yeah, and so he's constantly assessing. The next rider we have is Finn. He just got up, and this is just slime. And so Greg had actually taken up a bunch of different tires. He ended up running intermediates.
Oh.
You can see the roost here, all of this.
Yeah.
Finn's actually on muds. I think Finn was one of those riders that had one of the worst tracks.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just sliding all over the place. He got the same information that we talked about, but he decided to turn up and ride this line. One of the reasons he was able to do that, he rode it really amazingly. Now we have Amaury, and he's just so good on the brakes. I mean, look, when Greg was talking about it being soft, look how little roost, and that shows you how much more traction he had. So you go from Greg being inconsistent, a little bit slippery, to Finn having that really slimy track, and then Amaury having a soft track. But I mean, for him to be able to assess that, have the confidence.
Watch this, feet up.
No one is taking that line here. I mean, and you can see how soft it is over there.
Insane.
It's just so insane. I mean,
That's
like you
genius
said,
right there, riding the bicycle.
That is exactly what you want, you know? It is just one of the greatest runs we've ever seen.
And again, I reiterate, a man who broke his neck the first race last year and sat it out for an entire year. It's impossible to come back to the level he has, and he's done it again.
For sure. And I mean, the other piece of it, you know, I mentioned the other piece, that you have communication and then you have bike setup. So I wanted to show you with Valley here. So on the left-hand side, we have Leger, and then on the right-hand side, we have Val di Sole. So
the last 2 races.
As gnarly as Leger was, it's actually a smooth track. So look at on the right-hand side, you always have to make a trade-off with bike setup. She's bottomed out. You don't want to adjust your suspension for this one part. That's why you go to the gym.
Yeah, that's right.
And look at on the right-hand side, look at how rough the track is. I actually wanted to show you what rebound is, because that's one of the things you'll do here. Lower the tire pressure, soften the suspension up. And you have the square edge bump. I'll mark where Valley suspension is on both of these. Not a square edge bump on the right here, but that's okay. And so I'm gonna go one frame. And look at how much she's rebounded over on the right.
Yeah.
And over on the left, it's all good, right? If she would have had fast rebound, front end would have gotten unweighted, she would have lost traction.
Yeah, because it pushes the front wheel away, and when the traction isn't there, it will slide.
Totally. And so like you can see how low her suspension is staying on the left, on the right, you know, it's really active, gonna be much stiffer. And I wanted to show you kind of what she did and what that kind of bike setup would do here. You have tires, she took that low line, so she had communication as well. But that slow rebound is actually going to allow you to hold lines like that. Back tire isn't gonna rebound out, hop off of that ledge. So like I said, it was really a thinking person's game. All of these athletes are thinking about all of these things before the race, the entire team, all the way down. You know, downhill it's nuanced.
Yeah, it really is. And when you get into it like that, I mean, it's like cross country. There's a lot more moving components than you see just in the actual race runs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those micro details are what make and break, especially downhill, is what makes and breaks these segments.
Well, for 2 women on the comeback trail this year, Leger is almost a home race.
Home race means a lot of pressure, but in the same time, it's just the best feeling ever.
It definitely feels like more of a home race than Fort William, for example.
Leger means the world to me because I've been racing here forever.
This is where I figured out how to ride a bike properly, a mountain bike. So yeah, there's a lot of memories and people with so much passion for watching us.
It was challenging, but because I'm still on my way back from injury, it helped me a lot to be like, okay, you're here to enjoy the race more than to put some pressure on yourself.
I'm very internal when it comes to pressure and not external, so yeah, those things just fire me up even more.
I was happy to be on the podium with her, and we have some big goals together.
We were really good friends before, but then we both went through our head injuries, and we were just, yeah, she was someone I lent on a lot in that time, and vice versa. So yeah, it's incredible to share podiums with Pom Pom.
It's just like a lot of talking, and we are really good friends.
Yeah, it was just very nice for us both to know that someone's been through something similar, And I've always looked up to Miriam as inspiration coming back from injuries. I had so much support from everyone. That's what enabled me to get back to where I wanted to be. But that wasn't the goal. At the time, I just wanted to get back to a healthy and happy place.
I feel like I see the progress and the inner strength. It was good for me in Léger to really enjoy, and in the Stord Gate I was really happy to go in my race run, even if it was really bad rain. I was just so happy to be on the bike.
I really wouldn't have continued if it didn't bring me joy or happiness to ride my bike.
Well, great rivals and great friends. And I know that last year you were following Tani's story coming back from that concussion with great interest. I mean, did you actually ever expect to see her get back to the dizzying heights of where she is now?
Yeah, it's been an incredible story. She's done it so quickly. I think the fact that she didn't put that pressure on herself to come back that quick is what has allowed her to recover so fast. But as a former racer, I want to make sure she doesn't get so attached to the story.
Right.
Seeing her run in Léger, she clearly is back to the racer that she's been in the past. And just detaching from that phase.
Don't let it define her.
Exactly.
And, she didn't get to the bottom like so many, actually, in Léger without a big upside-down moment, but she rode so brilliant. I mean, I don't think we've seen her ride that well before. But no one in Léger could match the Italian Eleonora Farina. She's been trying for 10 years, and finally she's gone and won a World Cup. I mean, it must be an unbelievable feeling for her.
I love that this happens. I mean, she rode incredibly well. The track was still soaking wet, so all of these lines that she's doing, there was women that crashed before her, after her. Landing off of that onto that ice skating rink is terrifying. But
so's this.
She said to herself, I mean, she just didn't want to crash, but she put everything into it. When you see her face on the
finish.
Oh my God, she was like, I think I just won a World Cup.
And by my reckoning, you've got to go back to the when Italy ruled in downhill with Corrado Herrin, God bless his soul, and Giovanni Benazzi. The last Italian World Cup win would have been over 25 years ago. Let's find out what Eleonora had to say after making some history.
Finally winning a World Cup, wow, it's amazing. In my mind at the start, when I see the rain coming, I say Ele, stay on your bike, stay on your bike, stay on your bike. This was just in my mind, and I did it. Winning a World Cup is such a good feeling. Yeah. Now I just have to realize it, probably.
She's her Italian. She is absolutely Italiano. Amazing to hear her chat. I love it. Amazing. Yeah. Let's see what that win then for Eleonora has done to the overall World Cup standings. Here they are. 2 races to go, remember, in this year's series now.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that there's been a bit of a shake-up. We kept on that train of Vali winning and then crashing. So this was her crash, but she's still in the lead.
Absolutely, yeah. Valentina then. Seagrave not too far off her, but it is looking more like it's going to be Valentina's. But, there's so much can happen. We've seen Valley crash a few times this year. Ludenvier, that might be another wet one as well before we go to Mons and Anne in October. Yeah. It's going to be interesting there as well, isn't it?
Yeah, anything can happen.
Still plenty of fights. Or anything can happen. Anything might be about to happen. Let's have a look at our predictions for the Léger. Yeah, I know. Elliot's starting to rev.
Oh, you guys both lost. Wow.
We've got to let him enjoy this for a minute.
You guys suck. That's crazy.
We haven't been this hard on you. What's the forfeit? 10 press-ups like you did earlier.
Yeah, go ahead. I guess you guys can both do them. So, I mean, obviously,
here we go.
I picked the right person. You got 2 losers.
Ready? Go.
Tani was a good pick. But, I think I'm going to be on a roll there as they do their push-ups. Let's see what we've got. So, World Championships, Dakota for me, 2 Loicks. That's a good pick. Valley's a good pick.
Just beat a world-class athlete at press-ups. Just saying. Just saying.
World-class athletes, huh?
How are we looking here? Yeah, I'm pretty happy with World Championship. I'm happy with those. Are you?
Are you? Did you remember what you? I think that's all good.
I get my heart rate back down.
Yeah,
Listen,
it's good.
It's been incredible today. We've been brilliant. We got this to look forward to. While my heart rate, before it kicks into its max, which is coming fast, I think we better say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for joining us at home. We'll see you on the next Beyond the Line.
That's it for episode number 3 of Beyond the Line. but there is so much more to come on Red Bull TV. At the end of July, it's time for the best slopestyle mountain bikers to crown their respective king and queen at Red Bull Joyride. Find out if David Gozdziak can become the next Triple Crown winner of slopestyle. Also, don't miss out on the Crankworks festivities around Red Bull Joyride, as Whistler Canada once again hosts the biggest bike festival on the planet. And stay tuned for the premiere of Anytime. Beyond the Line is heading into a small summer break. We will be back after the Downhill World Cup weekend in Ludenville, France.